So, Tommy, since you brought it up, who do you think should be Goldberg's last opponent ever of his career?
Like I said, I think maybe Bronson Reed because to help put a younger talent over. I don't know if they need the Goldberg going out on top. Yeah, Gunther is easy as well for kind of what they had talked about. Don't know if that's a main marquee matchup. We saw what it did with Sting in AEW. I don't know. I really don't have that definitive answer. I think those two would be my best choices if it's in the world of WWE, which I feel it will be because they don't do anything. You know, the Pat McAfee has severe ties, of course, with WWE. And if you think about the whole Rock stuff, that all kind of they use that to get stuff over sometimes.
So if you just take the two choices that Tommy mentioned for Goldberg, whether that be Gunther or Bronson Reed, Gunther is definitely the better choice because Gunther will be able to get a better match out of Goldberg. One of the things that you have to consider is what Goldberg he's good at and what he's not necessarily good at. You have to put the spotlight on him in all the right ways. You have to, play to his strengths and hide his weaknesses. I think that's better suited for Gunther. That's not taking anything away from Bronson, but Gunther is more seasoned and I believe can get a better, more spirited match out of Goldberg. I'm not saying that Gunther is necessarily the absolute best choice, but we did see Gunther take shots at Goldberg. They have planted the seed. They have watered it. I will say this, whichever young heel that they have a future for or a future plan for who can benefit from it is the right person for Goldberg. You want somebody to be able to tout that they retired Goldberg. And as far as Goldberg going out with a victory, in my eyes, absolutely not.
You know what, guys?
But the
listen,
WWE loves to do feel-good moments.
But not only that, but why would Goldberg want one more match and come back to lose? Here's why. His last match was in the WWE in 2022 at Elimination Chamber against Roman Reigns, and he took the loss to Roman, which really added to the mystique of Roman Reigns at that vital time as he was building up that run as champion. So, to me, why would Goldberg want to come back for one more match 2 years after his last match in the WWE to just lose again? I would have to think that Goldberg would want to come back to have one more match, to have a victory, to have that one last moment in the sun, because he helped bring Roman Reigns to that next level. So everything that you guys are saying he did for Roman. So why would he want to come back?
If you are a veteran in this business and you want to come back to have one last match so you can say that you shut the book on your career and you had control of it, I'm totally fine with that. If you are a veteran who needs to come back and have one last match because you need to win, I'm sorry, you're doing it for all the wrong reasons. That is ego. I'm not saying that Goldberg is coming back to wrestle because he needs to win his last match. But if that's true for any wrestler, that's ego. You don't do it that way. There's a way that things are done in this industry. You can still go out on top while still doing the favor on the way out.
Just listening to Bully, I do feel Gunther is the perfect person for a couple of reasons. Number one, height. You're going to get something of a stare down right off the bat to help build anticipation with that, and Goldberg will be making all his mean, intense faces. Him standing in front of Gunther is a much more impressiveness because Bronson isn't as tall as Goldberg. That's one. The other part of this is, Dave, you can have Goldberg lose to Gunther. Gunther celebrating. He gets on the microphone, starts cutting a promo, whatever, and Goldberg literally rips him in half with a spear after the match, and then you get your great moment of Goldberg hitting that spear and laying out the whomever that is. So, and yes, you have to do that. I understand if you're telling me they're going to go to the Georgia Dome, it works. If you're telling me I'm going to do this for Gunther at the Royal Rumble because it's a good match for Gunther to have at the Royal Rumble and an added mega attraction, yes, it works. I feel those are right places, right time, especially for Goldberg. And Dave, to the other point, I feel Bill gets a bad misconception because I've talked to him. He loves wrestling. He's loved
Bill's
this stuff.
Bill's a great dude.
He has this misconception from how he came in. And he's openly admitted on documentaries, on, conversations of it's just like, man, I didn't know this world. I got bad advice, all that stuff. His first run in WWE, not the best, but they did better with him when he came back. And you got to see the real Goldberg. The part with his son, when his son was a little kid, was awesome. Now his son's a grown man, getting and doing stuff for college. It's cool to see, Dave, I've told you this for my own. December 26th, man, it was me, Bully, Devon, we were wrestling the Wyatts at Madison Square Garden. My family normally would leave to go to Michigan. I wanted my family to see that I was wrestling Madison Square Garden. And I didn't care win, lose, or draw, but I wanted my daughters to say, because now they're old enough to say, wow, my dad wrestled at Madison Square Garden. He was, main evented it. He was cool. So there's little personal things. Bill doesn't need it for the money. Also, Bill, we have a whole new organization. Bill is kind of in with the UFC people as well. But that whole misconception of he didn't like wrestling, all that stuff, Bill is a great guy. He loves this business. He's passionate about this business. And I've seen him in the back. I've seen him just be to the point of humble and oh, thank you. He was always great with his fans. It's cool to hey, I would like to do this. I really would. And I think those are key and if I could help somebody else in the process to raise off of my name, that's the key to this industry. It really and truly is.
Well, I think the biggest
one time
thing
Goldberg tried to cut in front of me and Tommy online at a hotel at 2:00 in the morning and check in before we did. And he looked at us and he's like, "What do you think? I'm afraid of you guys because you're extreme." So I told Tommy to give me his arm, and I took a staple gun and I put a staple in Tommy's forearm. And Goldberg said, "Okay, I'll wait."
We were stupid.
True story.
It's 2 and 3.
Is this true?
1000% true story. I took Tommy's arm. He said, "Give me your forearm." I took the staple gun. I drove a staple into his forearm. Goldberg looked shocked. He goes, "Okay, I'll wait." Moving on.
No, I that's a great story. I think what's hurt Goldberg, that's an amazing story. First of all, that's kind of dickish by Goldberg to just cut in front of two people, no matter who they are. And the fact that you guys did that and he backed down, I think is absolutely awesome. I now look at Goldberg in a completely different way.
There was, listen, just to tell you road stories, when you're getting off a bus late at night and everyone's traveling and you go and you used to have to check in and you have 20 to 30 wrestlers wanting to check into your hotel, the respect factor always would kick in. You'd have to, Taker goes first, Sean would go first. You have all these things, but then, it's also, if you're newer in the company, it's kind of like that. They alleviated that with actually checking people they'd have their WWE staff, here's your keys as soon as you get off the bus, so you don't but also then waiting for the elevator. Dude, on some of these hotels, they'd have one elevator where you got all your bags, all that stuff. So there's other times. One time, I'm just telling a random story. Kevin Thorne said something to Scott Armstrong, because Scott Armstrong was the referee. He's like, "Hey, how come a ref's checking in, whatever?" And as we're getting into the elevator, it's 4 dudes because you could only fit. And Scott Armstrong double-legged Kevin Thorne in the elevator, and everybody fell like dominoes. And he's like, "Don't you ever disrespect me." He's like, "Okay, I tap." That was at like 4:30 in the morning after an 8-hour bus ride.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. And again, I look at him differently now to talk that way to Scott Armstrong. All right. So my point is this: when it comes to Goldberg, I think you guys would agree. Goldberg gets a lot of flack, and I think the biggest reason is because of Bret Hart. Like, Bret Hart continues to this day. He's probably saying this to somebody right now as we speak. He's probably bad-mouthing Goldberg to somebody right now. Like, I think that's the biggest reason that Goldberg gets a lot of the flack is because Bret Hart is so revered in pro wrestling, and Bret Hart will not let go that boot to the head. And Bully, we interviewed Goldberg, and Goldberg still doesn't understand why. Like, you know, that Goldberg even said that it was coming. He doesn't understand why. And that, you know, still to this day, all these, you know, decades later, Bret Hart still has all that hatred and animosity towards Goldberg.
Anything can happen to anybody in that wrestling ring. Mistakes happen. We all know that. We're not all as perfect and great as Bret Hart. What I have watched what has happened between Goldberg and Bret 100 times. It to me, it didn't look nearly as bad as what happened to Bret, but it didn't look like Goldberg did anything intentional. Did it look like that to you guys? Do you think Goldberg tried to hurt Bret Hart?
I don't think he tried to hurt him on purpose.
Tommy?
And then if you...
No, I just think he was, and he's self-admitted, I was green. Dave, I mean, we were talking about this before, what Bully said. Politics. We cannot change people's opinions. You are either this or that. I think this is the same type of situation. I don't like this person. This person ended my career. This person caused me to have like physical, I believe he had seizures and a stroke because of that. And it was just like, I specifically said, don't do this. And then you did it, or I didn't hear, or whatever, what this thing is. So you're not going to go and change Bret Hart's mind, because how would and could you? So it's just like, it's just one of those things. I either like this person or that person. And it's all, there's people that love Tommy Dreamer. There's people that hate Tommy Dreamer. There's people that love Dave LaGreca. There's people that hate Dave LaGreca. There's people that love Bully Ray. And there's people that hate Bully
Yeah, but
Ray.
Tommy,
you're not going to change
and
those
again,
opinions.
Tommy, I understand that. I'm not in that position, so it's hard for me to say. But we have seen in all sports where we have seen players who are paralyzed because of a tackle or because of a hit, but there isn't any animosity towards that person who made the tackle because that's
Dave,
it.
Dave, I'm sorry I didn't interrupt, but I'm going to take what you just said and I'm going to put it right in the pro wrestling aspect and give you the example. So let's take the NFL out of the equation and let's use two specific names to back up your example. Darren Drozdoff and D'Lo Brown. God bless Droz.
Yep.
A mistake. A very unfortunate mistake. A mistake that changed Droz's life forever. Droz forgave D'Lo because he knew it was a mistake. And Droz and D'Lo went on to have a great relationship. Yes, Tommy?
I don't know, but sure.
D'Lo has told me several stories about how they spoke over the years, and they stayed in contact. My point is, things can happen. Things go wrong. I have put staples in the back of The Undertaker's head. I have nearly taken Tommy's ear off. He reseated me about a year ago and ruptured one of my balls. I have lit people on fire. I have had people give me such bad black eyes and broken noses. Things happen. No, you're not supposed to hold grudges. And yes, Bill was green. You cannot take a guy like Bill Goldberg and hold him to the same standards that you would anybody who A, always wanted to be a pro wrestler, and B, was trained the right way. Bill Goldberg didn't want to be a pro wrestler. Bill Goldberg had to find something to do and earn a living for his family because whatever happened with him in the NFL, injury or whatever the frick happened to him. Okay? And then he goes to the power plant. And then all of a sudden they pull him out of the power plant and they start this whole streak. And they protect him. And he gets in there and it's jackhammer and power slam or whatever the frick he did and 1, 2, 3. And before you knew it, you had a homegrown superstar who Hulk Hogan now decides, I want to put this guy over in the Georgia Dome and put the strap on him, but doesn't know how to work. Doesn't know how to go past 5, 7 minutes. Bill is a product of the wrestling business, both mentally and physically, and this business will screw people up along the way if you are not molded and trained the right way. I can't hold Bill accountable for the way he might have looked at things. You have to be trained a very certain way mentally in this industry to be pushed to that point. Was Bill Goldberg ready mentally to be the world heavyweight champion of a company? Probably not. And he would probably admit that if he hasn't already. So accidents happen. He admitted he didn't know. The very first thing that we said to him on this show, Dave, and I think I said to him was, man, Bill, that was so big of you to admit, I don't know. Do you know how hard it is for a manly man, a testosterone-driven animal like Bill Goldberg to have to say, I don't know? So, Bill wants to have his last match. Great. Welcome. Have your last match. I hope you sell out the Georgia Dome one more time, but put somebody over on their way out.
And we'll see. And I think there are options. I think you're right, Tommy. I think you have to look at Bronson Reed as an option. I think you have to look at Gunther as an option because we saw that back and forth with Gunther. Braun Breaker is an option as well. I mean, I think there are options for Goldberg, but you're right. There is that WWE way, unless of course your name is Sting. There is that WWE way where they want to have smiles on people's faces. And maybe they bring Goldberg in for one last match to have that feel-good moment at whatever event it is for Goldberg to go out with a win and to say goodbye. Because if you're going to go in a loss, it doesn't really make sense to me. When you look back on his last match just 2 years ago against Roman Reigns and in a loss to Roman Reigns. So it will be interesting to see, what that last match will be, where it will be. Is it a WrestleMania match? Is it a SummerSlam match? Is it, we'll have to find out in 2025.